Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to Mr. Tudor Brown. 热烈掌声欢迎 ARM 全球总裁 Mr. Tudor Brown 为我们带来精彩的专题演说。
Ni Mang Hao, I have to apologize for my slightly croaky voice this morning. 2 weeks ago, my son gave me his cold, and I have not been able to get rid of it since then. The ARM vision is actually very simple. We see a world where all electronic products and services are based on energy-efficient technology from ARM, and this makes life better for everyone. And I hope I will show you over the next few minutes how we think that vision is starting to come true. And with your help, I think we can get even further. But first, let's look back over the last 25 years and see just how far we have come. The first ARM was created in 1985. We called it ARM1. It had about 6,000 gates. It was built on 3-micron technology. You could actually see it. It was about 7 millimeters on a side. And we used that for building simple personal computers. Well, today, the simplest product ARM has is Cortex-M0. It's about 8,000 gates. And if you build it on 20 nanometer technology, it's about 0.07 millimeters on a side. In other words, it's about 1/10,000th of the size of the original ARM. That is how far we have come together. Now, of course, nobody builds chips quite that small. And what happens is that that sort of technology is integrated and expanded into chips that are still about 7 millimeters on a side. These are the sort of typical chips that you are building today: dual Cortex A9s, Mali dual-core graphics, System I/O, and so on. These are the chips that are powering today's cell phones and smartphones. And so I think you can see just how far this industry has moved, and I think we can see how far it's going to move going forwards from here. Let's look at the end product demand, first of all. In 2010, it is estimated there were 22 billion SoCs made in the world, and ARM had about a 28% market share of those SoCs. In different markets, of course, ARM has had much higher penetration than in other markets, ranging from in typical mobile phones, where ARM technology is probably used in well over 90% of those phones, right across the different markets, up to the server market, where today it's pretty fair to say ARM has 0% market share. So that was 2010. As we look forwards to 2015, the good news for all of us, over that time frame, the market is going to grow. Some markets will grow faster than others, but overall, the SoC market is predicted to grow to 34 billion units, and that's a 1.5 times growth from where we are today. What we do with that growing market and where ARM penetrates those products will remain to be seen. But my message here is that whatever the outlook in the very short term, this is a positive outlook. The industry has a great future ahead of it in growing markets across many segments. Excuse me. Now, to cover that enormous market, we say that the connected world is very diverse. And by that we mean that we are seeing ARM technology being used in chips costing as little as 10 cents. And we're starting to see ARM being used in small numbers, in some very expensive chips, hundreds of dollars, even up to $1,000. And the amazing thing about the ARM architecture is that it can span this incredible range of complexity and cost. And that, I think, is one of the things that makes the ARM architecture unique today. And by the way, it's not just the ARM architecture, it's because of the business model and the fact that so many different companies operate in different parts of the market that enables some companies to work at very low end of the market and some companies to work at the very high end of the market. But the picture is one where across the spectrum, ARM technology is used. Now, within that spectrum, we see that mobile technology is the nexus. It is the focus. ARM is well known in its capabilities in the mobile space, and from that, these other markets have grown. And I'm going to show you now why we see that mobile is the nexus. Because the reality is that mobile is very tough. It's actually really difficult to build products for the mobile space, as many of you know, because it has a constrained power envelope. Obviously, these things are battery powered, and the battery technology has not advanced very much over the last few years. So we live in a constrained power envelope. We live in a constrained physical envelope because your pocket doesn't get any bigger each year. We live with a constrained thermal envelope because you have to hold it in your hand. And it's actually quite uncomfortable holding something in your hand that's quite warm. So that limits the amount of power you can actually dissipate at any one time. And of course, these are consumer products, so the cost has to be constrained. But despite all those constraints, there are lots of unconstrained challenges. In particular, the need for apparently ever-increasing performance, driven by the need for unconditional functional growth. And these are consumer products, so fortunately, we seem to have unconstrained volume growth. That's good news. So if I was to summarize what we have to do if we want to build chips for the mobile phone technology, it's pretty scary. We need something that has infinite power, infinite functionality, infinite standby time, zero active power. It needs to be robust, it needs to be invisible, it needs to be low cost, and you need to be able to make it in very high volume. Impossible, you might say. Yes, but actually we're getting pretty close to that. And I think you can see that if you can meet all of those needs, then you can solve many of the challenges in this industry. And that is why we still focus today on mobile as the nexus of our technology. Not just because it happens to be a high volume market in its own right, but it is a great technology driver in many aspects. Now, ARM's role in this industry, as we see it, is to drive our roadmaps forward. We take a large part of the revenue we get and plow it back into the roadmaps. And each year, or most years, the roadmap cost or investment has grown. Last year it was well over $150 million. This year it's significantly higher than that. And that is our commitment to you, our partners, that we are going to continue to invest into those roadmaps. And I'll show you over the next few minutes some of the areas in which we have been investing. That results in products that we make available for licensing, of course. On the CPU side, the Cortex family of products is typically what is being licensed today by most companies, and it's being very successful. This year we have introduced Cortex A7, Cortex R5 and Cortex R7, and the Cortex M0 system design kit. On the graphics front, our technology is called Mali. That has a high and successful licensing base, and this year we brought out Mali T604, and even last week we announced Mali T658. And those products between them are each applicable and appropriate for different growth markets, as we will see. Now, ARM is focused very much on building efficient systems, or enabling you to build efficient systems. And we believe very strongly the way to do that is to build heterogeneous systems. So ARM technology is designed to be scalable, It's designed to interwork, and this gives you an enormous sort of dynamic range of performance capabilities. So on the left-hand scale here, you can see you can build very simple technology, a single Cortex-A7 coupled with a Mali T604. If you want more complexity, you can go right over to the right-hand side of the screen, a quad-core Cortex-A15 coupled with a quad-core Cortex-A7 coupled with an 8-way Mali 658. And almost anything in between. So by using a combination of this ARM technology, you can build the product that is most appropriate for your market. As you know, ARM does more than just CPUs and graphics. We also spend a lot of effort on our physical IP, and part of that is about working with foundries and process technology companies to see how the technology is advancing, and ARM is working with various companies right down to the 14 nanometer node. It's a long time before 14 nanometer is going to be used by most of you in this room, but ARM has to work right at that very most advanced node in order to help our technology be ready and in order to help the process technology be appropriate. And then you will hear more over the coming years from ARM about security. For some time we have realized that what ARM is enabling in the smartphone is driving a need for greater security. As the technology moves from the chip to the device to the cloud, so does security. You can't have a secure system just by having a secure cloud or just by having a secure handset. You have to secure the whole chain. We also believe that security requires hardware, software, and services, because we're not just talking about a bit of malware or a few viruses here. We're talking about fundamental security. So ARM's approach to this is built on trust zone technology. And at the end of last year, we actually created a new division in ARM called the Secure Services Division to push forward this secure technology, because we are absolutely sure that now is the time. The market is understanding that we need more security, and let me show you why. In the PC world in which we've been brought up and which we're used to, the fact is there is no hardware root of trust. The fact is that we have protective measures running on the OS, which is at the same level as many people are writing viruses and malware.